You ever just not care how bad a video game story is? You ever just sunk hundreds of hours into the game despite the fact the story is about as emotionally compelling as the patch notes? Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanx, the 10 best games where the story sucks. Starting off with number 10, Doom: The Dark Ages. This one's a bit of a minor misdemeanor at best. Doom games don't really need a plot, at least not a traditional one like with characters and stuff. The thing is, the plot in The Dark Ages isn't even bad, it's just mostly unnecessary and gets in the way more than it really helps drive the action. It's mostly just there as an excuse to go to different locations. That's really all you need for a game like this, but sometimes the story moments do drag on just a little longer than they need to. If there is one element of the plot that is a pure flatline though, it's the bad guy. You know from minute one of seeing this baldy dingus, he's got no chance against the Doom guy. So the scheming and the mustache twirling, it falls flat.
All the power of hell cowering before one man.
He's not intimidating at all. You just know it's going to be a lot of faffing around until the ending where the Slayer just murks the guy. And while that's not exactly how it's meant to go down in the story, I mean, you do actually have to fight the guy twice in two pretty good boss fights, but in gameplay terms, he doesn't stand a chance. At the end of the day, the story of Doom: The Dark Ages doesn't add as much as it does get in the way. It's not like omnipresent though. There's multiple missions where you don't even get a cutscene to explain why or how you're in the location at all, but when it does pop up, it can cause the game to drag a bit, because it just doesn't feel right in a Doom game, and the characters are so thinly sketched, it's hard to care about them. But they keep appearing and talking, which is interesting, because in Doom: The Dark Ages, all you want to do is rip and tear. It's like what John Carmack said about stories in video games, something porn. We've all heard it a million times, you know the line.
There is no one left to trust. That is why you allow me to speak.
At number 9 is Starcraft 2. Ever since going all in on World of Warcraft all those many years ago, the writing at Blizzard has gone from being mostly excellent to inconsistent at best. This change is most evident in the Starcraft saga, where the original games and Brood War managed to hit just about the perfect tone. The character writing was good, the overall plot progression was satisfying, and the story beats just made sense. The original Starcraft and Brood War campaigns are classics in the RTS genre for a reason. They were done really well from top to bottom. Starcraft 2 is also very good. It might even be the best RTS campaign of all time. It's massive, the mission design is some of the best ever, the presentation is fantastic, but there is one little problem. The story sucks. The cracks were always there, even with the highly regarded Wings of Liberty campaign where you play as the Terrans. The writing is a little more broad, the story beats are more obvious, and the character writing lost a lot of the nuance. But as far as the story goes, there really isn't anything egregiously wrong with it. It's just noticeably not as well written as the first game. The game's second campaign, Heart of the Swarm, is where it all goes to crap. Yes, I am talking about how the game treats Kerrigan, the Queen of Blades. It might sound like a lot of fanboys whining from the outside, but it is actually absurd what they did with that character. The entire Brood War campaign did the whole maybe Kerrigan is a good guy now shtick, only to brutally pull the rug out from under you. And at the end, she was 100% a bad guy who did a bunch of unforgivable things. The main Terran hero guy, Raynor, literally swears revenge against her at the end. So here comes Starcraft 2, where as early as Mission 2 of the Zerg campaign, he's kissing her.
Yep.
All that bad stuff, just water under the bridge, I guess. Blizzard loves a heel turn. They do it all the time in World of Warcraft, and it's especially jarring here because it's not like she's done anything to redeem herself. The writers just wanted her to be the new anti-hero, so instant forgiveness from everyone in the story, right? It's far from the only problem with StarCraft 2's writing. I mean, everything about Amon feels like it came right out of World of Warcraft. You know, that bad guy playbook of any expansion. They're so incredibly lame, and their presence makes the final missions maybe the worst of them all, but here's the thing. If you ignore the dumb story, the campaign is just all around excellent. It's extremely well designed. It's fun. It blows every other RTS out of the water in terms of scale and presentation. It's a very good game with a very bad story.
Keep your intervals wide, your eyes open, and your asses covered. Let's move. Sounds like a plan.
Don't go up that road.
At number 8 is Far Cry 2. Make no mistake here, Far Cry 2 is a great game, but the way they decided to tell the story is bizarre. There's really no other way around it. The basic premise of the plot is solid. Central hook is that you're hunting down this dude called the Jackal. He's been supplying weapons to both sides of the conflict in an African country's civil war. The plot actually does a lot with very little, but the problem is really how they chose to tell the story. For some inexplicable reason, everybody in Far Cry 2 talks at 1.5 speed.
I have to get out of here, but I can help you get some medicine. Come find me at Mike's bar later.
Now, 1.5 speed is great if you're listening to an audiobook or a podcast or something, but it's a really weird choice for mission briefings. I cannot wrap my head around it, in fact. Did the developers think people would get, bored or something? Of the information that you need to know as you're going into a mission? It's a weird choice, and it never stops. Everyone just talks like this, and it always sounds bad and unnatural. It's just one of the most baffling storytelling choices ever made in a game, and it could have completely ruined Far Cry 2 if not for all its other innovative features. It's such a bizarre thing where the story on paper isn't bad. It's maybe a little flat, which is fine for a video game. The fact this list exists and you're interested enough to watch it implies that the story's not the most important part of a video game if a game can be great with the story not being great. Like in this one, you just spend most of your time bouncing around doing menial tasks for jerk-off warlords, and there's no real progression of a central plot, but the scenario writing isn't bad. It's just that the voice actors are rushing through the dialogue so fast it's actually hard to keep up. At a certain point, your ears just give up, and you just let the waypoints tell you what to do.
So that just leaves you to take care of the monkey work. First thing, I need to get that piece of shit Coop outside back on the road. You look like a vocational school dropout. Go out there and see if you can get the engine running.
At number 7 is Mirror's Edge, a bona fide classic, still actually beautiful to look at. The design of this world is genuinely incredible. The way you move through the world, it's incredibly satisfying. Honestly, you could use the word incredible repeatedly because it feels so great to play to the point where it's incredible. It's just so unfortunate that the story doesn't hold up compared to everything else about the game. I gotta be honest, I've played it multiple times and I don't really know what the story is supposed to be. I don't really know what they're going for. Faith has a sister who gets accused of a crime or something, and there's evil people who don't like running. But I guess the runners kind of run illegal stuff around. But what illegal stuff exactly? I don't know. And if the sister was accused of a crime, why isn't Faith, who is running contraband around? Isn't that? I don't know. I might be wrong about all this, and it doesn't matter. It all ends on a cliffhanger that never gets resolved because the second game rebooted the story. The second game in the series, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, also has a pretty bad story, but it does have one thing the original doesn't: proper cutscenes. And this is the part that really kills me. These are like Newgrounds Flash animations. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bashing Newgrounds. I love me some Newgrounds. I've cut my teeth on the Newgrounds. If I went into a movie theater and in the middle of an action film, they started delivering me the story via Newgrounds level cutscenes, flash animations, I would not like that movie. I think it would be bad. It just looks like a bad licensed movie tie-in game or something. It just really looks bad. It's like I'm watching a car insurance commercial from the mid-2000s here. It's embarrassing. And when the in-game cutscenes happen, where the game incorporates some story that you see in the game engine, it looks all right, good even. So why cut the corners with the awful flash animation-y looking stuff? Why cut the corners? Why do it? I'm not saying better production values would have saved it. It's, I think, fairly incoherent, but it at least would have looked better. Mirror's Edge is a game where they had a really cool concept, but they seem to run out of ideas after the concept and the level design and all that stuff. I mean, it's good. Very good even, but it's also a really short campaign. Not a whole lot happens, and you don't really know what's going on.
I'll drop by later, okay? And don't chuck that pizza. I like the toppings.
Matured. Yeah, I know. See you, Merc.
At number 6 is Marvel's Midnight Suns. Coming from Firaxis and XCOM guru Jake Solomon, it should come as absolutely no surprise that the tactical gameplay of Midnight Suns is excellent. It's card-based, which could be a turnoff for some people, and some birds of prey that play video games. That'll work.
not bad.
I honestly, it's kind of a hard sell for me if you start incorporating cards in games that aren't card games. But this one comes together very well. The game is more about creating synergies and smart positioning. The luck of the draw is part of it, but it's not central of it like in a lot of card-based games. On the tactical front, the game's just really well designed. It's a really good game. And having access to all these classic Marvel characters is super fun too. If you're at all a fan, finally getting some of these characters in a game and actually interacting with each other, it's kind of thrilling. The problem is what comes out of their mouths. You know how everybody's been complaining about MCU writing or Joss Whedon writing, you know, the sort of trying to be clever, nonstop quippy dialogue that everybody's becoming completely annoyed with the oversaturation of. This game is like that, but like times 100. It's like the worst parody of a Marvel movie, and a lot of the character writing is just bad. I have a pretty high tolerance for cringy dialogue. I'm not gonna lie. I sometimes even find cringy dialogue charming just because it's like, you're really trying, aren't you? Which entirely explains why mid-2000s games that are labeled too corny by many are classics for me. But I gotta tell you, I was fast-forwarding through some of these conversations. I couldn't take it anymore.
You just got knocked the you know the rest. Am I really gonna have to bring out the big guns for this?
It's not just that everybody's trying to be funny and cool, but mostly land on obnoxious. It's that they keep talking and talking and talking, and it does not stop. Like, I appreciate the attempt, seeing the superheroes like casually interact in a more laid back or even domestic situation. It can be fun, and I appreciate what they're trying to do, but they went so overboard on it. It's straight up indulgent how much dialogue is in the game, and it just drags the whole thing down. I'm not saying there aren't amusing interactions in there. It's not all terrible. But the signal-to-noise ratio, it's not good. The strength of the actual tactical gameplay means it's a game I would recommend to anyone who is even vaguely interested in the tactic-oriented game. But be ready to start skipping cutscenes, because they're long, they're numerous, and for the most part, they suck ass. At number 5 is Neon White. What we have here is a story of two games. On one hand, it's this awesome time trial FPS game about moving through challenging obstacle courses as quickly as possible. It's creative, brilliantly designed. It's really, really good. This part of the game, universally beloved. And the reason why Neon White is so highly rated. But you have two hands, right? I gave you the one hand. The other hand, the other part of the game, the visual novel part. So I'm not going to say that the characters don't have fun 90s anime-inspired designs, but everything that comes out of their mouths is insufferable. The second part of this game is just a straight-up visual novel where everybody talks like your Tumblr-obsessed niece from 2015. It's all fanfic-coded, which means it is as indulgent as hell. So much of it is utterly unnecessary. The characters are just trying way too hard to be cute and endearing, but cross over into deeply unlikable with just what seems like no effort whatsoever. Normally you have to try to make somebody as dislikable as the characters in this game. They didn't. They tried to do the opposite. I don't know. Everybody's on hateable villain level, even though none of them are really that. Now, you can skip most of this crap. However, if you don't build up your relationship meter with a lot of these characters, you will miss out on a lot of optional missions. It's one of those games where you're even kind of willing to go along at first. I mean, they got the voice of Spike Spiegel himself, Mr. Steve Blum, to voice the main guy, and that alone brings a lot of goodwill to it. The voice acting itself, the acting, it's good, but the things they're saying, they're not good. When you're in the meat of the game, though, the FPS stuff, the story mostly goes away and just lets you focus on the good stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff to focus on. I do have a lot of respect for the devs for trying to do something different here. The obvious thing to do would just make a bunch of contextless levels in a series with no story, but I mean, it's nice that they put the extra effort in. I like that. I don't like the result. It could be a lot better, let's say. Doesn't make the game not incredibly worth playing. It's even one of those games where it does have a card element to the gameplay, but it doesn't really suck. And the gameplay is so fun. And seriously, if you like what you're seeing on the screen at all, even a little bit, try it, because it's a really fun game.
another one down.
At number 4, it's Xenoblade Chronicles X. This game has been the black sheep of the Xenoblade series ever since it debuted on the Wii U. It's a more freeform, open-ended game, which is not a bad idea in theory, but there's a lot of cutscenes dedicated to the plot, which unfortunately just doesn't go anywhere. It's a game where the music does a better job at setting up the stakes than the actual story does. The soundtrack, incredible, fantastic. Makes every event seem like the most epic and important thing ever. While the characters spend most of their time milling around in the kitchen joking about how they're going to eat that little Nopon guy for the 1000th time. Seriously, there's one joke with this furry little mascot guy, and they run it so far into the ground by the end of the game. It's amazing. So much of the story is dedicated to these tedious domestic scenes where absolutely nothing happens, except somebody says they're going to eat that guy, and he freaks out, and what do you know? It's just a joke. Real funny stuff. Glad we're dedicating this much time to an inconsequential, unfunny, unserious, repeating event while humanity is on the brink of extinction every second. So many mysteries are brought up and never resolved. I guess most of this stuff was intended to set up the next game, but at least up to this point, that hasn't happened. Really, the biggest issue is there's barely any plot progression to think of. Outside of the opening setup, very little happens. There's huge chunks of the game that are almost plotless, where you're just exploring and doing very basic side quests with no real movement in the story at all. It's a game that felt unfinished in a way that no other game in the series really does. It was ambitious. It's got interesting things going for an RPG, but the plot is weak. It's the weakest aspect. There's not enough of it, and when things do happen, they're not that interesting. At least the recent remaster did try to improve it, and it is a better game, but the original game really never went anywhere. It's a cult classic for the gameplay, the fantastic open world, and the amazing music, not the story.
Hostile neutralized. Switch to close-range combat.
Hey, no push!
Shadow strike.
Flame grenade! Shadow, follow me! Rogue armor!
Now it's my turn.
At number 3 is Painkiller. I know exactly what you're going to say. Hey, Painkiller doesn't have a story. It's like Doom or Serious Sam. You just go through the levels, right? Wrong. For some inexplicable reason, Painkiller has these long, interminable cutscenes that bookend every chapter, and man, are they something else. If they weren't so slow and boring, they would be comedy gold, actually. There's a reason so many people completely forget that they exist, and it's because everybody got very bored after minute 1 of cutscene 1 and started mashing through these scenes as fast as they could.
What?
The story adds nothing to the game at all. If anything, it makes it more confusing. Visually, the CGI cutscenes don't mesh with what's supposed to be happening in the gameplay at all. It's the moody, dark, realistic world where this dude with a trench coat monologues to himself like he's Max Payne's lamer cousin, while goofy, like really goofy looking human characters appear and exposition dump at him for literally minutes at a time about stuff that doesn't seem to have anything to do with Painkiller. When the missions start, suddenly your guy stops talking and there's no context for anything you're doing. I mean, it's just a random collection of levels that end with the boss fight. I mean, apparently you're battling the forces of hell, and this boss is one of Satan's generals, but none of these so-called generals look or anything like a leader. Like, they don't act like a leader. One of them is a blob that doesn't do anything. They barely look demonic. It's so bizarre. It's like some of those old NES game manuals where some writer just makes a backstory looking at the game for 2 seconds. That's basically the plot of Painkiller, but with a much bigger budget. I don't know what was going on here. Like, were they making a different game? They commissioned these CG renders and pivoted mid-development and just needed to use them? I really don't know. There appears to be no information about the game's development on the internet. Why are these cutscenes like this? Did the devs actually think this was good or cool? Or I really don't know why they're here. They are terrible, and it's not in a fun way. Still, it's Painkiller, and it's great. And number 2 is Valkyria Chronicles 2. Getting into more obscure stuff here. The original Valkyria Chronicles, it was not a storytelling masterpiece or anything, but it did try to make the concept of anime World War II workable with gravity and some weight to it. Like it treated the events of the story like a war where people could die. There were stakes and danger. Characters did die tragically, sometimes even out of nowhere. It was anime as hell, but the fantasy WW2 stuff is treated with a certain degree of seriousness. So the second game was on PSP, and instead of following a militia unit of citizen soldiers, we're not going headfirst into high school. Yeah, I'm not joking about that. They somehow found a way to insert the tedious cliche of making it about high school in this game that is taking cues from the most violent conflict in human history. Now, I'm not saying that World War II is some sacred event where you can't do anything with it. It's not rife for possible humor or weird angles or stuff like that. Like, the art does that, you know? But this was a game where the characters were mostly adults. They were dealing with serious life or death situations, and they found a way to put high school anime BS in it. As a consequence of that, everything's super cartoonish and broad and dumb. The characters are obnoxious and way more one note than they were in the first game. Any positive qualities of the writing went straight down the toilet. The whole thing was embarrassing. Like, you didn't want somebody seeing you play it. Like, imagine having to explain this to your friends or family. Oh yeah, it's World War II, but you go to a combat academy and it's conveniently exactly the same thing as a regular Japanese anime high school.
Woohoo!
That was cutting it close. A little too close.
Made it.
And yeah, everything that you can expect that is cringe about that, it's there, which is a shame because the actual gameplay is improved over the first game, which was also a great game. It's a tactical game on the PSP that is brilliant, but the story is best skipped.
All right.
Here I go! I see one! Ha! Enemy down!
And finally, at number 1, it's Halo Infinite. Make no mistake, the most recent Halo is a pretty great game. I love the open world segments, and the core Halo shooting is, of course, as good as it ever was. I love the little quirks in the AI that make each enemy encounter feel unique and fun. The vehicles are still a joy to use, as are most of the weapons. The addition of a grappling hook, always positive as well. It's a good game with great multiplayer. Wow, but the story, it is a mess. There's just no other way to put it. I do have some sympathy for the devs here. They had a pretty big hole to dig themselves out of after Halo 5 Guardians. That game was widely seen as a disappointment, and the direction they took the Halo story was part of that, so it makes sense they wanted to give up on whatever plans they originally had for the sequel and just start fresh. I get the urge to do that, even though I think it ultimately did more harm than good. Instead of continuing where Halo 5 left off, this game just pretends that a Halo 6 already happened, and we didn't see it. That's problem number 1. Then we've got the enemies, the Banished. Between games, apparently these generic Covenant knockoffs managed to defeat humanity a second time, so now we're repeating the story of Halo 1 to diminishing returns. The Banished are not intimidating. They do not feel like a proper threat compared to the Covenant from previous games.
Spartan's not so tough, I think. Break open easy. Soft inside.
Chief?
I see him.
Last time we saw them, they were this small splinter fraction of bandits, and now they're somehow post-defeating humanity. The idea mankind was weakened after the fight against the Guardians or whatever, but all I'm hearing is that the story decided to skip over a lot. That's what it really is. The game also suffers from the same problem modern-day Bungie and Blizzard games are all afflicted by. All these studios want these cool or iconic lines all over the place, but without a really strong writer behind them, they just sound labored and obvious. They want every line to be trailer ready already, and they're not good. The writing's bad. It's trying too hard to be funny and pretentious at the same time. It's just lame.
Your legend, the fear you inspire is admirable. The hope you stir in the hearts of your kind, misplaced. I want you to know my name too, to know my legend. How else will you beg me for mercy? I am Escharum, War Chief of the Banished. This is my world now.
Also, the Endless, there's yet another secret doomsday alien race here. That's probably also never going to get followed up on, just so you know. I don't know how anybody can care about Halo anymore when they keep introducing plot points that are like reheated versions of the old ones and they don't follow up on them. The story of Halo, it's somehow more of a mess at the end of Infinite than when it started. Like, it was supposed to be a soft reboot, but it's as confusing as it could possibly be. And of course, the gameplay's still solid, but the Halo story is a total mess under 343. I do not know what they're going to do to fix it either.
We'll need to clear somewhere to land.
Incoming.
I do have a bonus for you, too. It's Metal Gear Solid 5. We've talked about it endlessly, but I do have to throw it out here because it's the perfect example of a game where the gameplay is good, but the story sucks. In this case, it's less about the story sucking, because what is there is actually quite intriguing, other than the Metal Gear Solid 3 stuff and the vocal parasites, which is kind of weird and dumb. The big problem isn't necessarily the story sucks, it's just that there is none. It's barely there. And for a Metal Gear Solid game, that's very weird. Yeah, the fourth game went way overboard with the cutscenes, but this game went too far in the opposite direction. It's all gameplay and barely any story. The sneaking gameplay, some of the series' best, but without a satisfying story, it's a hard game to come back to and still one of the biggest what-ifs in gaming history. What if they actually finished the story? Would it have been a masterpiece, or would it have been a kind of mess like it is? It's impossible to say, but it still kills me, because this game, it introduces multiple plot points that just never get resolved. The stealth is brilliant, but the story is a frickin' disaster. From a certain perspective, the lack of cutscenes might even be a good thing. I don't know. I don't care how nonsensical it gets. If I'm playing a Kojima game, I want cutscenes and I want lots of them. So in my mind, MGS5 is always going to be just a disappointment and hard to go back to. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.